Okay, I'm going to read you a story today. I hope that you're all okay and that you're looking forward to hopefully coming back to school as soon as we possibly can. But the story that I've chosen this time is Julia Donaldson's Tyrannosaurus drip. This one is one of my favourites, and for anyone that likes dinosaurs, I'm sure you'll like it too. So, although Julia Donaldson is the author of this book, you can see that David Roberts drew the beautiful pictures. So I'll try and show you those as best as I can too. This is Tyrannosaurus drip. Here we go. So we've got, in a swamp beside a river, where the land was thick with veg, lived a herd of duckbill dinosaurs who roamed the water's edge. And they hooted, "Up with rivers!" And they hooted, "Up with reeds!" And they hooted, "Up with bellyfuls of juicy water weeds!" Now, across the rushy river, on a hill the other side, lived a mean Tyrannosaurus with his grim and grisly bride. And they shouted, "Up with hunting!" And they shouted, "Up with war!" And they shouted, "Up with bellyfuls of duckbill dinosaur!" But the two Tyrannosauruses, so grisly, mean and grim, couldn't catch the duckbill dinosaurs because they couldn't swim. And they muttered, "Down with water!" And they muttered, "Down with wet!" And they muttered, "What a shame that bridges aren't invented yet." Now, a little I'll try that one again. A little Compsognathus, or Compsognathus, but for short we'll call her Comp, thankfully, found a duckbill egg and stole it from a nest beside the swamp. And she swam with it and ran with it and murmured, "Clever me!" and "Won't the baby Comps be thrilled with duckbill egg for tea?" She dropped the egg in terror and went running for her life from the mean Tyrannosaurus and his grim and grisly wife. And the duckbill egg went rolling, and at last it came to rest in, of all unlikely places, the Tyrannosaurus nest. Now, the mother T had great big jaws and great enormous legs, but her brain was rather little and she couldn't count her eggs. And she sang, "Hatch out, my terrors, with your scaly little tails and your spiky little toothies and your scary little nails." Out hatched babies 1 and 2, as perfect as could be. But Mother T was horrified by baby number 3, and she grumbled, "He looks weedy." And she grumbled, "He looks weak." And she grumbled, "What long arms! And look, his mouth is like a beak." "He just needs feeding up," said Dad, and gave the babe some meat. The first 2 gulped and guzzled, but the third refused to eat. And he said, "I'm really sorry." And he said, "I simply can't." And he said, "This meat looks horrible. I'd rather eat a plant." So we have to say plant instead of plant to make it rhyme there. "A plant," yelled Mom in horror, and Dad said, "Get a grip." His sisters found a name for him, Tyrannosaurus drip. And they shouted, "Up with hunting!" And they shouted, "Up with war!" And they shouted, "Up with bellyfuls of duckbill dinosaur." Poor Tyrannosaurus drip tried hard to sing along, but the others yelled, "You silly drip, you've got the words all wrong." For he hooted, "Down with hunting!" And he hooted, "Down with war!" And he hooted, "Down with bellyfuls of duckbill dinosaur." Drip's sisters soon grew big enough to hunt with Dad and Mum, but they turned on Drip and told him, "You're not fierce enough to come." And he cried, they've gone without me. And he cried, alack-a-day. And he cried, this doesn't feel like home. I'm going to run away. So he ran off to the river, where he saw a lovely sight. A herd of duckbill dinosaurs, all hooting with delight. And they hooted up with rivers, and they hooted up with reeds, and they hooted up with bellyfuls of juicy water weeds. And as he stood there on the bank, a sudden urge took hold of him, and he jumped into the water and discovered he could swim. And the duckbills came to greet him by the rushy river's edge, and they hooted, nice to see you, and they hooted, have some veg. And Drip, who was delighted that they hadn't run away, ate bellyfuls of water weeds and played with them all day. Then he gazed into the river and he asked them, who, oh who, is that creature in the water? And they laughed and said, it's you. You see his reflection here. That night the lightning crackled and a storm blew down a tree, and it fell across the river. And the teas cried out, yippee! And they shouted, up with hunting! And they shouted, up with war! And they shouted, up with bellyfuls of duckbill dinosaur. Oh no, can you see? Because the branch has gone over, it's going to make a bridge, and they think they may be able to cross it. Drip's sisters stepped onto the bridge, but then began to frown. For there in front of them stood Drip, who yelled, look out, look down! And they looked into the water, and they each let out a yelp. And one cried, water monsters! And the other one cried, help! You see, it's just their reflection in that one there. Their mother scolded nonsense, and she joined them on the tree. Then she looked into the water and exclaimed, good gracious me! The three of them stood trembling, and Dad said, get a grip. You're all of you as drippy as Tyrannosaurus Drip. He strode onto the bridge and scoffed, I bet there's nothing there. Then he looked into the water and he jumped into the air. It's got a terrible reflection there. And how the duckbills hooted when he landed with a crash, and the tree bridge broke, and 4 tyrannosauruses went splash. And spluttering and clinging to the branches of the tree, they went whooshing down a waterfall and all the way to sea. And the duckbills hooted happily, and they, I should have folded that one over there. And the duckbills hooted happily, hip, 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 hooray, for the heroic one and only Duckbill Drip. And look how proud he looks there. So that was the story, Tyrannosaurus Drip, and I really hope you enjoyed that one, as it's also one of my favourites.